Today, as Jeremy mentioned, today is the second in our three-part series about censorship, loosely entitled Teach the Truth. Last week we heard from Newtown Allies for Change about their successful efforts to oppose book banning. Next Sunday, Jeremy's going to lead the rally in support of diverse reading materials. This week I'd like to discuss the origins of book banning, because the history of the suppression of certain thoughts and ideas actually precedes the invention of books. In fact, the banning of ideas is literally the oldest human story in the book. In Genesis, shortly after Adam and Eve are created, God gives them one rule. Paradise is yours as long as you don't eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The original sin, the original don't ask, don't tell, and their punishment for eating from the tree of good and evil is the original sin. Think about it. Whoever wrote the Bible, whenever they wrote it, and of course now the rains are going to rain down on me, but whenever the Bible was written, whoever wrote it, when they wrote it, they set down the very first rule of mankind's proper relationship to the world around us. Don't try to learn about things. Don't try to understand. Don't question the authority of power underpins the entire Judeo-Christian Islamic tradition of thought. Many of the failures of organized religion, from intersectional warfare or genocide to priest pedophilia, to abortion, to one-dimensional criticism of the advancement of women or racial minorities or queer people or other outsiders. All right, so as I said, many of the failures of organized religion stem from the Garden of Eden direction not to question. Specifically, not to question the way things are, and they always have been and always should be. Judgment is something to be handed down rather than developed through an analysis of good and bad. Contrast this ethical code with that of the indigenous Hopi tribe of the American Southwest, which I've always loved. The ethical code of the Hopis, as given by the Spider grandmother, includes two basic foundational rules for man's relation to the world around him. The first is simple but powerful. Don't go around hurting each other. Especially in our mean social media era, don't go around hurting each other is a pretty good restatement of the love your neighbor theme that adorns many of our signs and which Jesus is one great commandment. The Hopi's first rule paraphrases our golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do to you. But the second rule handed down by the Hopis in rain like this. The second rule handed down by the Hopi's Spider grandmother is the exact opposite of the Garden of Eden prohibition of eating from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The Hopi rule is try to understand things. Not don't you dare try to understand things. It's the opposite of book banning, the opposite of thought suppression, the opposite of cancel culture. Imagine a Western world whose operating system was founded on a principle of your creator encourages you to try to understand things, rather than your creator forbids you from questioning the way things are. That's the approach I try to take to debates over what should and shouldn't be said or written or asked. Try to understand things. If someone says all lives matter, tell me why you're saying that. If someone says Black Lives Matter, tell me why you're saying that. I want to understand why you support Donald Trump for president, or Joe Biden for president, or why you say they're both equally bad, they're not going to get my vote. I'm okay with critics of Justice Southbury, but I want to understand why they don't support our vision of a more fair and kind community for all. So when confronted with any effort to limit what can be discussed, break it down to the essential variables. Who wants to prevent whom from hearing what and why? Which group doesn't want another group to try to understand certain things and why? In America, the First Amendment of the Constitution prevents the government, acting through elected officials, boards of education, police, etc., from abridging the freedom of speech. That is a fundamentally superb and necessary part of our society, and it distinguishes us from many places where the government decides what is and isn't allowed. Always keep in mind that while this protection is unnecessary to protect popular ideas, the protection is crucial to protect the expression of unpopular ideas. But our First Amendment rights end with government censorship. Public or private censure by fellow citizens is not covered by the constitutional right to free speech. Tastes change. Words that were appropriate in the past are no longer appropriate now. Alternate facts are offered. Truth isn't truth, and any unwelcome news is called fake news. We shouldn't just smugly say, well, our tribe is right and their tribe is wrong. If we're truly going to try to understand things, we have to question not only why those who disagree with our viewpoints do so, but we also have to question if our own viewpoints need adjusting or overhaul. I often ask opponents of Justice Southbury, tell me why you say that. But I need to be receptive to their question back to me, tell me why you say that. Yesterday's blasphemy is today's orthodoxy, is tomorrow's heresy. I was horrified by the Islamic world's reaction to Salman Rushdie's satanic verses, but I join criticism of those books which argue in favor of white Christian nationalism. I liked the J.D. Vance, who wrote Hillbilly Elegy. I disliked the J.D. Vance, who now represents Ohio in the Senate. Does that make me better than the person who feels the exact opposite? And we need to distinguish between facts and opinion. If a book states the facts about slavery, the facts are true or they're false. If the book argues that slavery was bad, that slavery was bad, that's opinion. That's an expression of values. If the book mentions the benefits of slavery, that's also an expression of values. Give that expression of values the exposure that it deserves. Thank you for stopping the rain at least. What I consider to be education, my conservative friends considers to be indoctrination. What he considers to be education, I sometimes consider to be indoctrination. One listens to Fox, one listens to CNN, one listens to MSNBC, and often the others say, well, that's thought control. When I say teach the truth, I mean teach the truth. If something is true, say it. If something is false, expose it. If something is neither true nor false, but opinion, well, if it's your opinion, express it. And be prepared when someone else says, why? If it's an opinion you oppose, challenge it by asking why. An open mind grows. A closed mind remains fixed. Teach the truth and try to understand things. I think that I don't support a single thing that Ann Coulter says. But I also don't support a college inviting her to speak and then shouting her down. What are we scared of hearing? If what she says is BS, call her out for it. I want our local library to include children's books which positively depict LGBTQ and multiracial families. But then how do I oppose the inclusion of books which teach our children different values? So it's exactly that. It's about values. If you're going to try to understand things, you want to espouse your values and to expose the values you disagree with. Open up those books to critical analysis. Let people say what they want to say, and then if you disagree, say you disagree and why. Tell me what you think and why. Here's what I think and why. Get it out in the open. Let us discuss and argue and agree and disagree. And in the process, let us try to understand things. Yesterday, Colette Mambo posted on Facebook this quote from LBJ. Books and ideas are the most effective weapons against intolerance and ignorance, end quote. Use those weapons. Whether we inform with prose or we inspire with poetry, our learning is enhanced by curiosity and creativity. So strive to understand things and strive to be understood. By our values you shall know us. Thank you.